When you think of a pipe organ, images of the Phantom of the Opera may come to you. Or maybe you get an image of the world's largest pipe organ, the Wanamaker, located in Macy's in Philadelphia. Or maybe you just think of your own church pipe organ. What you most likely don't get is an image of a virtual pipe organ. Or rather, a pipe organ you can play through your personal computer at home. And that's just what one area man has done. He has put together a rather remarkable sounding pipe organ using speakers, a keyboard, some software, and his home computer.
I worked on pipe organs when I first got out of high school, but always wanting to own one. The problem was money and space. They do take a huge amount of space. Years ago, I had an electronic instrument, electronic church organ, and as they got more when they moved from analog to digital technology, the quality got so good that it actually drove my interest even more. And it was only recently that I saw that with the power of home computers, that the processing power and the software were available, that we could even exceed the quality of professional electronic church organs. Now they're called virtual pipe organs. And I guess seeing that, being able to realize my dream and actually have a pipe organ in my home was now achievable through the latest state-of-the-art digital technology. It all boils down to what kind of quality level you're trying to achieve, and I'm trying to go to the extreme and literally have Salisbury Cathedral here in my basement. And the way to do that is having a computer with as much processor power as possible, because in order to get proper polyphony, and polyphony means how many notes can I play at once before they start dropping off. I would say a typical keyboard instrument that you would buy at the store, by the time you play more than about 16, 18 notes, the next note you play makes an earlier note drop off. They can only play so many notes at a time. With this kind of horsepower, we can play equivalent to thousands of pipes at once without any of them dropping off. And the secret is computer horsepower and memory, lots and lots of memory.
All that memory, of course, needs to run through a multiple processor system, which allows for faster and more reliable access.
Having the entire sample set of a large cathedral organ stored in memory versus hard drive allows that instantaneous access. If you're playing a piece and it has to go out and go to the hard drive to get the next pipe sample, there's just not enough time. It'll eventually fall behind. But being able to store the entire sample set into memory is one of the other items that makes this so successful.
Now, a lot of the technical information and support for Bob's virtual organ came from Hauptwerk.com and its forum users. But Bob is quick to point out that Hauptwerk is not trying to replace traditional pipe organs, but rather just offer an alternative.
My initial thought was, this can't be true, and it's got to have a flaw. And having worked in the organ business, I figured I'd be able to detect the flaws, and having professional artists actually play on it and get their feedback, what they think. And it's like, nah, this can't be. And just to give you an example, right here in Pennsylvania, you have the great Allen Organ Company down in Macungie that builds professional church organs. And they're really fine instruments. I don't want to disparage them, but this gives them a run for their money. It really does. To have a really decent sized Allen organ would probably run $40,000-$50,000. And so my initial thought was, there's no way you're going to approach that. But the more I got into it, the more I fine-tuned the sound system, fine-tuned the software, put the proper pipe samples in. When I first played it, it was like, oh wow, I couldn't believe what I heard. And essentially, sitting here in the basement, you can put yourself in these great edifice structures that contain an organ. It sounds like you're there.
We brought famed local organist Emil Kitten along with us for a test run on Bob's system. And from the first notes, well, you can tell from the look on his face how good this virtual pipe organ sounds.
Very nice.
Interesting, huh?
Well, you're not kidding. Who would think so?
Once you have the computer power in place, as you can see, all you really need next to make the virtual pipe organ functional is a keyboard or two and some decent speakers. But as you may have gathered, you don't necessarily need to know how to play a keyboard. There are MIDI, or musical instrument digital interface files, available that you can download into your computer that will play your virtual pipe organ for you.
If a true artist is going to play on these keyboards, the motions that they make are recorded precisely. They can also be played back. So I have friends who are classically trained, world-renowned organists. They will play at their location and then email me their performance. And I can then hear their performance here at home. So people who have player action pianos, maybe they don't play the piano, but they put the roll in and it plays by itself. Well, essentially that's what we have, only we're playing the pipe organ.
And again, with MIDI files, you can also hear music on different types of pipe organs. Anything from the sound of a cathedral organ to the sound of the old Paramount Theater mighty Wurlitzer organ in New York City.
I think the attraction is the music itself. Number one, I like what's called Baroque era music, which is 16th, 17th century. And the masters that produced that music of that era were, I guess when I hear the music, I actually see mathematics. I see the relationship of the mathematics and the music. And it's kind of like an artist having a palette of paint and being able to mix and blend to get the perfect color that they're looking for. The pipe organ allows you to take the perfect blend of stops to get the exact sound color you want. And the fact that I could have Bach music playing while I adjust the tone colors for myself, it's just a very, I don't know, it's just very satisfying.
Welcome to Metrocasting. I'm Doug Farley. We begin with an update on a story we first brought you in Season 2 of Metrocasting. It involves a man, his love of a particular type of music, and his desire to bring it to the masses. In a past episode of Metrocasting, we brought you the story of one local man's quest to build a digital pipe organ. When last we left Bob Glass, he had the early makings of his digital dream situated in the basement of his home. At that time, we brought famed local organist Emil Kitlin along with us in order to get a professional's opinion about the device. His reaction, even at that early stage of the process, was one of surprise and delight. Well, a little over a year has passed since we last visited this subject, and a year later, what started out as a hobby has grown into a full-blown obsession. That little digital pipe organ is now a full-sized digital pipe organ, complete with a multi-tiered keyboard, manual and digital stops, foot pedals, and a wall of sound. Still powered by an Apple computer and a program known as Hauptwerk, at some point during the last year, the complete ensemble was transported to the Bloomsburg Community Church at 4th and West Streets in Bloomsburg. That is where it now accompanies the church congregation during hymns on Sunday mornings, and where it entertains those who have had the privilege to hear, or better yet, play it. But more on that a little later. First, we want to show you the process of how the Bob Glass digital pipe organ grew to its current size and stature. Metrocasting was there as a few of our fellow Metrocast employees, namely Matt Ettinger, John Lacey, Eric Hager, and Tom Coombe, helped Mr. Glass move everything from his basement to the church. Once there, they moved a few things around in order to make room for the organ, and they put the shelves together that hold the wall of speakers. Then the speaker system itself, the backbone of the project, was wired and ready for use. This, by the way, was the organ the church had been using. As you can see, the new digital organ is quite an upgrade. Now, initially, a small MIDI keyboard was used as a means to play the organ, or one of Bob's numerous MIDI programs were used as a part of the church service. MIDI, by the way, stands for Musical Instrument Digital Interface, and they are computer programs that play an instrument the exact way it was performed by somebody else. In fact, on the computer screen, you can actually see the keys of the organ moving the same as the person who recorded the piece originally. Those particular sounds can also be sampled by the Hauptwerk organ to play any other song the current organist may wish to play. Bob's original concept of using a couple of modern or stage keyboards was even used for a time while a traditional pipe organ console and keyboard was located. Once a traditional console was found, it had to be rewired for use with the MIDI interface devices that drive that entire instrument. That included the pedals and the manual stops and the keyboards. As you can see, the entire project was quite an undertaking, but once finished, as you will see and hear, it was well worth the effort. All right, now that you have a better understanding of what it took to get it from this to this, let's backtrack a moment to last summer. In the midst of his work to create this digital masterpiece, a young pipe organ enthusiast, Cody Mead, got wind of the project and stopped by to try his hand at playing the digi organ. You know how people talk about making something hum or sing? Well, that's what Cody and a friend from New York were able to do even without the use of a traditional keyboard.
It sounds a lot more like a real pipe organ than digital organs that organ companies build, and the fact that you can download so many different samples from different organs throughout the world makes it more versatile than any electronic organ that you can buy standard, or for that matter, actual pipe organs. Once you get the proper sound system and everything set up, it really is more versatile and useful than any standard electronic organ and most pipe organs.
Darren, you're playing this organ for the first time. Is this the first time you've ever seen a Hauptwerk?
Yes, it is. I'm very impressed.
How so?
It sounds exactly like a real organ. I love playing a little keyboard like this because it's not as heavy as some of the actions, so you can control what keyboard you use. But it sounds like a real organ. It's way better than a lot of electronic organs that I've heard, big names. The sampling is incredible.
Why did you want to build this?
Well, it was a technical challenge, and I've always enjoyed organ music. I love the pipe organ. Having one is just so impractical. You would need a huge, huge house, tons of financial resources, just not practical whatsoever. And when the hardware got to the point and the software got developed to the point where this dream was achievable, then I was driven to make this happen. And so, like I said, I started with simple pipe samples, and when I heard the potential, it just drove me to take this to the extreme. And so now we have fully developed software. In its latest release, it just does everything you could ask for. It does, in this particular instrument, does require a lot of computer resources, but the end result was definitely worth it.
As Bob said, his passion for this type of music and the sound the Hauptwerk software produced was all the inspiration he needed to take this project as far as his resources could reach, including finding an actual church to place the digital pipe organ in. Now, it may come as a surprise to know that each traditional pipe organ is set up according to the sound of the room it is in. That means what may sound good in your church or venue may not sound as good in another room due to the differences in each location, including the length of the walls, the height of the ceiling, the type of glass, and even the furniture and people in the room. Larger rooms create a wet sound, which is another way of saying it leaves a certain melodic echo when a note or a song is played or done playing. On the other hand, a more insulated and smaller room may create a dry sound, which means when the note or song is finished, there is little or no echo afterwards. The same holds true for the digital pipe organ. Once he found a church willing to house his creation, the speakers, just like pipes, needed to be placed strategically to get the proper sound for the room. The Bloomsburg Community Church offered that opportunity.
Initially, we had a computer running software that would produce pipe organ sounds through a sound system. And the human interface to that, I had some very simple, what they would call stage keyboards, MIDI keyboards, to test the system out. Since the test was very successful, the thought was to build a real instrument in a real church environment, which would require a real organ console, which would have to conform to AGO specifications. That's the American Guild of Organists. That way, any artist could come and feel right at home at the console. So the second part was also to expand the sound system to make it fit a larger room. This particular space we're in is about 50,000 cubic feet, and so I have 14 channels of sound at 200 watts per channel to drive all these pipe sounds into the room, and it seems to work quite well. But the main thing was to give it a real organ human interface, the console.
But since this is a true digital instrument, we wondered, why go traditional at all? Why not just leave it with touch screens and common portable electronic keyboards and the like?
Well, because you're still trying to make it appeal to an artist. And an organist is an artist, and they're used to touching or pulling. And if now all of a sudden they're being asked to touch a touch screen and look for something to light up as a verification, it puts them out of their element. And I want to give the organist as much of a at-home feeling as possible so that they can focus on the music.
Fortunately, Bob was able to find a pipe organ console, but even that presented challenges in that, as originally intended, the digital pipe organ needed to be portable.
The thing is, a pipe organ console typically weighs about 700 to 900 pounds, requiring 4 men, dollies, moving trucks, etc. Not practical, because I wanted this, when we started, we were in my basement with doing the initial research and development, but now I want to have it enjoyed and to put it in a church environment. On the other hand, I may want to move it. So the goal was to build a very capable console to control this rather large pipe organ and yet have it portable, to be able to be moved in a day or two. And that's what we've achieved. It's now at a size where 2 men could move it with a pickup truck and have it reestablished in another environment in about 2 days. I actually bought a pipe organ console from a church, actually it was a pipe organ builder down in Gettysburg, and it was very inexpensive. It was probably 40 years old, and what I did was recondition the keys and added electronics so that the keyboards would now send MIDI messages. We also took the pedal keyboard, all the accessories, and made everything able to send MIDI messages. So the only thing is, we did away with the large piece of furniture that was all the weight, and we replaced it with a conference table that was obtained at IKEA. And basically, the reason for using that particular conference table is the legs were adjustable in height, and it allowed me to build the console to exact AGO specifications. But the object is to have a real organ console, and yet it's still portable. So that whole box that contains the tilting tabs and the music rack lifts off and can easily be transported as a separate unit. The stops to the left and the right currently are being operated using 24-inch monitors with touchscreen capability. So right now, the organist finds a stop, they touch it to turn it on, they touch it again to turn it off. Eventually, I'd also like to replace those touchscreen monitors with real stop controls, and again, make them as portable or modular units that we can take and move them separately. But it'll then give an organist a real organ feel.
That is why we brought in a local church organist, Mary Lou Hinchcliffe of the First Reformed United Church of Christ in Berwick, the services for which are seen every Sunday right here on MetroCast Channel 10. We wanted to see if she got that real organ feel or not when playing the digital pipe organ.
I think it's very impressive, and it has a lot of potential. The fact that he has actually 3 different organs sampled in here, and you can choose which one you're playing at any given time, gives you such a variety of sounds to use, and with various pieces that are appropriate for the different sounds, because not all of the organs are appropriate to all of the pieces. And the fact that they are sampled directly, the sounds are sampled directly from the organ in the church in which it is located, rather than artificially sampled, gives the actual sound of a pipe so much better. And you're able to have the multiple manuals, and as you can see, a plethora of stops. So I think it has a lot of potential.
Your face kind of lit up when you were playing, I call it the Phantom of the Opera piece. That's what most people know it from.
That's the Bach Toccata and Fugue in D minor.
And what were you feeling at that time when you hit that? There was a certain note, you just lit up.
one of the bass pedal notes. There's a really good 32-foot stop on there for the pedals to really give the oomph that piece needs and requires. And I was playing that on the Salisbury Cathedral organ selection here, which makes it really sound like it's being played in a cathedral with a lot of echo, like one of those huge stone cathedrals from Europe. That was nice. You probably wouldn't want that for congregational singing, but you can use one of these others for that.
For the record, Mary Lou did say that while the Bob Glass digital pipe organ sounds very good, she does not believe it will or can replace a true pipe organ, a sentiment Bob and others echo. But if you haven't got a spare $1 or $2 million just lying around somewhere, this would make a fine substitute.
Most average smaller community churches have, if they are fortunate enough to have a pipe organ, it's usually an instrument that's anywhere from 15 to maybe 35 stops. And if somebody wants to really blend tone colors, and if they want to perform literature from all periods of music, they really need a wider palette of color. So the digital pipe organ allows them to have 70, 80, 100 stops at their touch, and yet you don't have, you know, all the hardware behind it. So in no way does this Hauptwerk instrument replace a pipe organ, but if you want an instrument with a lot more resources, this is a lot more affordable. So in the example that we played for you here, we used the 70 stop Willis pipe organ from Salisbury Cathedral in England. If you wanted to replace that instrument physically with a real pipe organ, I couldn't even imagine how many millions of dollars that would cost. And yet we've been able to duplicate it here for maybe $20,000. So yeah, it's a tiny fraction of what the real thing. Now, mind you, it doesn't replace the real pipe organ, but it's darn close.
And that it is.